As we barrel toward the back end of college football season, as tragic as that does sound, we'll all make our predictions and prognostications about who will be the teams that make the cut for the college football playoff. Now, it seems this year is as up in the air as it's been in quite some time. A lot of familiar names are still there, but there seems to be some new teams who want to get welcomed to the dance and flip the same script that we've seen virtually every year. Now, while we have an excellent finish to the 2022-23 season upcoming, imagine if we had the 12-team expanded playoff this year instead of having to wait until 2026. Now, I believe we'll only have to wait until 2024, but that's open for another day. Now, with a large group of competitive teams this year, the matchups would be more savory than a deep-fried turkey on Thanksgiving. And we'd have intriguing matchups from coast to coast and everywhere in between. Can you imagine a TCU-Tennessee game? They'd score more than Matthew McConaughey on Sorority Row. An Oregon versus Clemson matchup, followed by Oklahoma State taking on Michigan. The possibilities are almost as endless as the excitement. Now, I've made it known I think an 8-team playoff is the perfect number, but that's out the window. And even though 12 is the cap, in my opinion, before you start to harm the regular season, you can sign me up to be locked in for every huge playoff matchup. We might have to wait until 2024 to see these contests get played out on the field, but a boy can dream. And boy, is it a good one. Gentlemen, it's Monday, which means another week is basically done for college football. It's going by.
Another week's upcoming.
Way too fast. I know another week's upcoming. I'm typically an optimist. I'm kind of caught in the purgatory of it right now because I'm excited. We're starting to see it play out. We're seeing who's really about it down here at the end when the pressure's on, but that does mean the season is waning. But where I want to start this year, okay, I've gotten to the point where I've convinced myself this is not the same rerun that we are seeing of every single year before this. Does that mean that Alabama's not going to end up making the playoff and it's going to be Bama, Clemson, Georgia, and Ohio State? No, nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen. But I'm looking at TCU.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Tennessee with a matchup where they opened up as an 11-point dog on the road at Georgia. That game's going to be really interesting, especially with the way Georgia's played lately. You look at some of these teams with one loss, Oregon, UCLA. You look at the Big Ten, Ohio State's undefeated, Michigan's undefeated. Penn State, bad loss at Michigan. You do get to host Ohio State. You could really rectify that loss against Michigan and throw this whole thing for a loop because imagine, and I'm not saying they will, but if Ohio State goes to Penn State and loses and then Ohio State beats Michigan last regular season game.
It's very similar to the situation in the SEC right now.
Very similar. You could have chaos. We could actually have legitimate chaos throughout. So chaos in the SEC, chaos in the Pac-12, chaos in the Big 12, chaos in the Big 10. I am totally here for it. Now, we have a graphic of a 12-team playoff, what it would look like in our opinion right now. We didn't go straight off the AP. We took our top 12 teams. And just looking at it, Cone, it is absolutely dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and throw that bad boy up there.
There it is.
So I'm going to tell everybody, if you're on audio, all right, remember the first 4 teams get buys in the new playoff format. All right, now the 6 conference champions are going to be automatically in. They're going to be ranked by how good the conference is, or if they went undefeated. Obviously, those will be 6. Then you'll have your other 6 at larges. So here's what we got. All right, in the top left corner, Georgia's our overall 1 seed. They're getting a bye. They're in the same bracket as number 8 Oregon and number 9 Oklahoma State. So the first round matchup would be Oregon versus Oklahoma State. If you go down, the 4 seed Michigan gets a bye. They will be playing the winner of the 5 seed Clemson, playing the 12 seed Syracuse, a game we just saw 2 ACC teams. We put Syracuse in because when you compare them to Wake Forest, they both have a loss to Clemson. Syracuse's loss was on the road. Clemson had to come back and win it. Wake lost at home in a shootout, both great games. We decided to slip Syracuse in there, long way to go. You go to the top right, Ohio State is the 2 seed. They get the bye. They would play the winner of Alabama and UCLA. Alabama would be the 7, UCLA would be the 10. That would be a hell of a matchup. And one, I believe we saw in the NCAA basketball tournament here recently. That's right, UCLA beat Alabama to go to the Final Four a couple years ago. Then you go to that 3 seed, Tennessee as the 3 seed right now, getting the bye, taking on the winner of TCU and Ole Miss, the 6 and 11 game. That right there, guys, that you can't lose. There's no way to lose with this.
Yeah.
Blaine, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I know the bottom right, there's going to be 1 million points scored in those 3 games. The thing about me is I still think Alabama makes this 14 playoff. I'm taking Alabama to beat Ohio State. And I think it's an easy walk-in for Georgia, and I think Michigan comes out on top. I don't think you really look at this Clemson team. Do you think, I mean, if they played Syracuse again on a neutral field, who are you taking in that game?
I'm gonna
take him between who?
I'm gonna take Clemson.
Syracuse and Clemson.
I'm gonna take Clemson for this reason, and I don't want to take anything away from Syracuse. Clemson played about as bad as they could from a turnover and bad decision standpoint. DJU looked like old DJU. You're going in the 5, you get basically tackled for a loss that wasn't really a sack, fumble it, Syracuse goes and picks it up and runs it for a touchdown. You're throwing interceptions in the red zone. Clemson played about as bad as they could play and still found a way to win the game. Guys, I think they turned it over 4 times, maybe 5. You have no business turning the ball over 4 times and winning. I know it was at home. That's probably what got him over the hump. But on a neutral site, I don't think Clemson plays that bad. And I think Syracuse kind of gave out their bag of tricks with Garrett Schrader and the offensive coordinator, Robert Anae, using that true quarterback run game. Q power. Power read, what we talked about to make it 11 on 11. I thought that was a great game plan going in. I thought Clemson adjusted, and Syracuse didn't have an answer for the Clemson adjustment on defense. And also, from a roster standpoint, Clemson just has more depth, and gravity took over there. But what I like, Cone, what I like about this is the diversity of these styles that we would get out of this.
And that's fun. That's fun.
So, like, bottom left, I think like Michigan, Clemson, and Syracuse, that would be probably your most defensive-heavy side of the bracket or corner of the bracket. I think you'd get more offense out of the Georgia, Oregon, and Oklahoma State side. Then the bottom right is obviously a Globetrotters game. How many can you outscore the other team? Can you take the over in every one of those games? And guys, I'm going to be honest. I think the top right may be the second most high scoring. UCLA and Alabama. I think that game could total around 80 points, as crazy as that sounds. That feels like a 52, 38, 52, 42 type game where Alabama wins. I don't think UCLA could stop Alabama, but I think UCLA could score a lot of points on that Alabama defense with Charbonnet and DTR and Bobo and the way they're able to move the pocket and move the launch point and challenge you in every level of the secondary.
Is this the most parity we've seen right now in college football?
Well, since when?
In a while.
I think you got to put.
Let's
When's the last
really
time
go back. Can we even remember? With that there not being the 3 or 4 teams or hell even 2 teams that we knew was going to make it to the national championship. Like, you can go back before the playoff era, I guess.
Yeah, in the BCS era, you were getting this a lot more, right?
But well, you only had 2 teams.
Yeah,
exactly. With the playoff, but the differences in styles, I think, is an interesting point, and it's something that would set this apart from an NFL playoff, right? Now, one of the arguments for the 4-team playoff is that college football is the only sport where the very first weekend of games matters, okay? And I think that is a good point. But what matters more is playing competitive games week in and week out and allowing a team to get better throughout the season. So let's just take the Oregon and Georgia game for a second. Oregon loses 49-3, gets blown out in that football game. They could have very easily scheduled Portland Technical College week 1, and they'd be undefeated right now. We'd be talking about them being undefeated, but we got to see, now it wasn't a great football game, but we got to see a better matchup that could have led to a good football game in week 1 because of that, and Oregon has gotten better each week, right? So I don't think they should be penalized for scheduling a tougher non-conference. If you allow for a 12-team playoff like this, you will see more and more tougher non-conference games, which I think could be important. Now, we'll never get to a situation in college football where 30 teams can win the national championship, but we don't need to. Imagine just 12. Imagine
and
just
it gets
12.
played out on the field. That's my thing.
That's the thing. Now, I'll stand by 2 points. The 4-team playoff system solved the problem it was created to solve. The BCS and the pre-BCS era where more than 2 teams could win the national championship. I don't need to tell you guys about 2004 Auburn. They have a great case to make. And since the playoff has been created, we haven't seen a situation where more than 4 teams can win the championship. So if you're saying in this situation, it's still going to be Georgia and Alabama and the Buckeyes and all that, I understand that. But you've always made a good point that if you allowed this to play out over several seasons, you would see more parity in recruiting.
Yes.
And then imagine if you were to get more 5-stars who are all of a sudden committing to Syracuse, right? Or committing to go play at UCLA. Then all of a sudden we could see a situation where you could just throw a dart at any one of these 12 teams and maybe they have a shot to win the championship.
That's my thing. I always say it's like fixing an economy. There's no light switch. There's no quick flip. There's no way to be able to do it quickly. It takes time. You don't turn around an economy in 2 days. You don't create some sort of parity. And we're not saying there won't be years where it kind of regresses back to where it is. It's just every year is different, especially in the game of college football. But like you said, imagine being able to be a recruiter from Syracuse and being able to go into the living room and saying, hey, guys, guess what? We made the college football playoff last year. You want to play in the biggest moments? You can come to Syracuse and do that. Hey, TCU. Hey, you ain't got to go to Texas to play in the college football playoff. Come to TCU. We'll be fine. UCLA, we want a resurgence. We want to be relevant. We want to be one of the big dogs again. Well, heck, we made the playoff. We're going to the Big Ten. Why would you not want to come here? So I think it's not, this isn't inclusive because this is earned. I hate the word inclusive and equity in college football for each team. This is earned. You earn the right to be here. You earn the right to play in this game. And it's one game. A lot of things can happen in one game. So I'm really, really excited to see it. And it would definitely be epic. Hey, hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. I know you are. We're going to keep trying to grow the channel like a weed. So make sure you like and subscribe and share it with your friends. We are live every weekday morning, 7:30 to 9 Eastern. And we work on the weekends because we're here for you. Because without you, there is no us.